Hey, if you've ever dealt with the frustrating grasp of analysis paralysis and would like to discover this simple process to near instantly overcome analysis paralysis whenever you're struggling with it so you can get into action mode and as a result, start getting results, stick around and watch today's video through until the very end as I'm about to share with you this simple 3-step process to overcome analysis paralysis and get your business into results. With that said, if this is your first video, my name is Misha Wilson, and over the course of the last few years, I've done nearly $20 million in total sales online, and I've dealt with analysis paralysis quite a bit, and I've learned a few different things that whenever I deal with, now essentially allow me to overcome it when I circle back to these things, and I'm about to share with you exactly how I do it. With that said, if you get value, don't forget to let me know in the comments section below what your biggest takeaway was. I love reading each and every single one of your comments, and I try to reply to every single one as well. And as always, if you get value, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon notification button so that you're notified when I do more videos just like this. With that said, let's go ahead and dive right in.
Welcome to the Misha Wilson Show, where we show you how to create massive success online so you can enjoy the lifestyle of your wildest dreams.
All right, so once again, what we're going to be talking about here today is analysis paralysis. We've all dealt with it at some point in time, and it's that state of being and that state of acting when essentially you find yourself in a space of overthinking everything, overanalyzing everything, feeling completely and totally paralyzed with way too much information without being able to get yourself out of information intaking mode and into actually action mode, all right? And I know for the first 9 months in my journey, I drove myself $10,000 in debt. I got kicked out of 2 different houses I was living in. And I was so frustrated because I was going through so many courses. I was going through so many programs. I was learning so many strategies. I was doing, or thought I was doing what the people were telling me to do within those courses. And I thought I should be getting results, but I wasn't getting those results. And I had so much contradicting information all the time swirling around my head because I was going through too much information that I just felt massively paralyzed, almost to a state where I could feel it in my body. It kind of got, to a point where I felt almost sick and tense in my body because I was dealing with such intense levels of analysis paralysis. So if you're dealing with this, I completely and totally relate and I understand. And I want to share with you what's worked for me when it comes to overcoming it. So the first thing with all problems that you want to deal with is you want to find the root cause of the actual problem. So oftentimes we have a problem and instead of tackling the root cause, we find a symptom of the actual root cause. We work on eliminating the symptom, but then when we eliminate that symptom, another symptom pops up because we never went ahead and took care of the root cause. Or if we find the root cause, address the root cause and overcome it, all of the various symptoms that we're dealing with end up just kind of going away, right? So the first thing we absolutely have to do is we need to address the root cause. Now, the root cause of analysis paralysis is usually based somewhere around fear, all right? We all deal with it. I actually recently did a video when it comes to overcoming fear. I'll leave at the very end of this video so you can watch that if you'd like when it comes to how to overcome fear. But usually analysis paralysis is rooted in fear, right? You're afraid. I've been there myself. I'm not talking to you, just the proverbial you, right? All of us, we're afraid of putting ourselves out there and being judged. We're afraid of taking an action and having it not produce the result we want it to produce. We're afraid of failing, right? We're afraid of losing money. We're afraid of loss in general. We're afraid of all of these things which keep us from taking action. And when we don't take action, we still want to feel productive. And so what we end up doing, especially in the online world, because there's 10,000 courses being launched every day, it feels like, we end up going through another course. We end up going through another training. We end up getting on another webinar. We end up reading another self-help book. We end up listening to another podcast. Because we're not comfortable taking action because that fear is there, we then start intaking more and more and more and more information, all right? Where if we weren't afraid of taking that action and then having it not go perfectly, what we would do is we'd go through information, we would take the action, we would get feedback, we would then adjust based on the action, and we would continue to take more action, which is the opposite of being in a state of analysis paralysis. So the first thing you have to do is understand that at a core level, usually it has something to do with fear, and we have to be able to overcome that fear in order to take action. Be sure to check out the fear-related video that we'll leave at the very end of this video. Now, after you've addressed that main issue, the next thing that I like to do is I like to set strict rules when it comes to how much I take action versus how much I learn. All right, so in my personal journey, I tend to learn 20% of the time and I take action 80% of the time. Always be learning, never stop learning, always invest in yourself, constantly invest in your intellectual capital. I'm a massive believer in, of course, investing in yourself, as it is the single best investment you'll ever make. But at the same time, if you're just learning, intaking more and more information, you will find yourself in that state of holy crap, I have so much information in my head and I don't know the first place to start when it comes to taking action. You'll find yourself there very quickly. So what you need to do is you need to set up rules and you need to say, all right, I'm going to work for 4 hours today and I'm going to learn for 1 hour today, or even maybe 90-10, right? I'm going to work for 9 hours today and I'm going to learn for 1 hour a day. That's actually more kind of how I tend to operate with my business. I usually spend about an hour of learning and about 10 to 12 hours of working on a daily basis. Now, I love what I do, so it doesn't feel like work, but at the same time, I'm producing a whole lot more than I'm learning, and that allows me to stay out of that state of analysis paralysis. So put up guardrails in your business, put up guardrails in your journey, and realize that at any point in time, if you're starting to intake way too much information without taking action, it means that you need to start taking action. Let the guardrails guide you back to taking action before you get too stuck in, holy crap, I've just gone through 19 different courses and I haven't done anything with any of them, all right? Next, understand that perfect is the enemy of done, and sometimes good enough just has to be good enough. All right. The last thing that will get you stuck massively in analysis paralysis is dealing with perfection and never putting yourself out there because you're worried that it's not going to be perfect. You're worried that people are going to judge you. You're worried that it's not good enough. And the truth of the matter is that sometimes good enough just has to be good enough. I remember when I first launched my course, my first course I ever launched, my mentor got on the phone with me and I was finding 101 different reasons why not to launch my course and get it up and off the ground and actually start selling the thing. And he cut me off and he said, Misha, sometimes good enough just has to be good enough. And very quickly I realized, wow, I kind of thought about it and good enough equals good enough. Let's just get the damn thing done and get it up, right? And I did it. I literally did it the next day and I made my first sale the next day. And the thing about perfectionism that you have to understand is that if you are struggling with perfectionism, you are never going to get to a point where you're not in a state of thinking it's not perfect, right? If you're the type of person who tends to struggle with perfectionism, when you do a webinar, when you do a video, like this video, for me, not perfect, right? But you probably haven't noticed. I've noticed a couple of different times when I haven't got my words out just right. I've thought about, should I stop, should I redo it, etc. You probably haven't noticed, but because I tend to deal with perfectionism, I've noticed multiple different times. So what you have to understand is that you will never not notice. You're always going to notice, but your audience, the people that you're going ahead and presenting to, no matter what the thing is, or going through the course, or attending the webinar, or coming to the live event, the people who are there very, 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 very seldomly, unless you mess up in a massive way, ever realize that something went wrong. And this actually kind of reminds me of a story real quick. When we were first kind of in the launch phase of my business and we were going really fast, I was literally working like 16-hour days, right? We went from doing 10K a month to about 300,000 a month in about a 6-month period. And we didn't have the team, we didn't have the infrastructure. Everything was insanely crazy. And I was working every single waking hour of the day just to keep up with our business, while at the same time I was selling, I was promoting, I was constantly selling more and more stuff all the time. And I got to a point where I was just totally out of energy. And I remember one Thursday afternoon, we had a webinar scheduled And I was supposed to host the webinar, and I was supposed to sell a high-ticket mentorship program for $12,500 on that webinar. And I remember before the webinar started, I was literally like searching through my fridge to find an energy drink to slam, just have enough energy to get through that day with the thought of tomorrow I'm just gonna go to the beach and sit and not do anything because I'm completely wiped out, right? And that's where I was. And we started that webinar. I remember it was, 3 in the afternoon, Hawaii time. This is kind of thinking back to the good old days. We started it, and for the first 25 minutes, I felt, from my perspective, like I could not get a word out. I literally, every other word I was stumbling upon myself. I was, constantly just getting hung up. Like if I'm trying to do this video and I'm trying to remember the next thought. That's how it felt, right? The entire time I was stumbling over my words. I couldn't form a sentence correctly. I was noticing every little thing that I was doing wrong. And it actually got to a point in that webinar where halfway through the webinar, I thought to myself, I should just turn this webinar off. I should say that I had internet issues. I should say that I had an electricity issue. I should turn this webinar off. No one's gonna buy from this webinar. This is the dumbest webinar I've ever done. And then, start this thing tomorrow, redo it next week, and get some rest now, right? And I was pretty close. Actually, if you're on GoToWebinar, you can click a button and the little thing pops up to confirm that you want to end the webinar. I actually clicked the button to end the webinar, and the thing popped up and asked me if I wanted to confirm to end it, which would have ended it. And I was kind of like, God, I don't want to mislead my audience. I don't want to tell my audience that I had an issue when I actually didn't. So I'm just going to tough this thing out, right? I toughed out the rest of the webinar. The rest of the webinar, in my mind, absolutely totally sucked. Same as the first half hour, right? Couldn't get my words out correctly, couldn't go ahead and execute correctly, and it just wasn't good, but I was just going to finish it just for the sake of finishing it. Finished the webinar. We got 5 applications. We sold 3 different packages, over $36,000 in revenue for about an hour and a half period of time. On that webinar, 3 high ticket sales closed that if I would have listened to that internal dialogue telling myself, this is terrible, I should cancel this, I should stop this. If I would have listened to that and I would have stopped that, we would have never gone ahead and generated those sales. And that story illustrates perfectly a moment in time where I was thinking that this is not good enough. I was thinking this needs to be better. I was thinking, God, this is not good enough to put out in the marketplace. But the truth is, good enough just has to be good enough, right? And even though it wasn't perfect, it got done. And when it got done, it produced the result that ultimately I was after, and ended up making about, over $36,000 for about an hour and a half of work. So not a bad afternoon. So remember, perfect is the enemy of done, and sometimes good enough just has to be good enough. Get out of your own way, take action, get it done even though it's not perfect. Understand the marketplace won't see it. You'll be your kind of harshest judge. And if you can just get yourself to take action, remembering that you're going to take action 80 or 90% of the time, you're going to overcome the fears that are the underlying issue when it comes to analysis paralysis, and then you're going to remember that good enough just has to be good enough. And if you do all of those 3 things all the time, once again, you will find yourself in a state of constantly taking action, never getting stuck with too much information overload, and constantly getting the result that you want to in your business and in your life. With that said, I hope you got a ton of value out of this video. Let me know what your biggest takeaway was in the comments section below. Let me know if you thought my story was entertaining, 100% true, and I'm glad that I hosted that entire webinar. And hey, this video isn't perfect for me, but I'm still going to go ahead and put it out. As always, if you got value, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon notification button so that you're notified when I do more videos just like this.